How likely is Sang-woo to win Squid Game in real life without plot armor? I'm going to dive into all 6 games plus lights out, starting with Sang-woo's survival odds at 100% and then adjusting it game by game. By the end, we'll have a final number for what I think his real chances of winning would be. Now, Sang-woo was a character I personally loved in Squid Games. A lot of fans hated him for portraying Ali, trying to take out Ji-hun, or just being ruthless in general, but I vibe with his perspective, being smart, calculated, and laser focused on one thing: winning the games. Some argue that without the show's plot pushing Ji-hun as the main character, Sang-woo was the clear favourite to take it all. So let's break down each game, look at how things would likely go down in real life, and figure out if Sang-woo would have really come out on top. Game 1, red light, green light. From a viewer's perspective, red light, green light seems like a brutal game to survive, mainly because 255 out of the 456 players died, which is about 55.9% wiped out right there. So if you wanted to keep it simple, you could slap a 45% survival chance on Sang-woo and just call it a day. But obviously we're not going to do that, we're not going to do lazy analysis. Like I mentioned in the previous video, this game isn't as deadly as it looks. It's all because of one big factor: most players died in the initial panic. Nobody knew it was a death game going in, so when the first kill happened, a ton of people instinctively ran away without thinking, and that is the real killer in this round. From the game maker's side, it's designed to weed out the players who'd bail and vote to leave later. It's basically a filter for the scared ones who can't handle the heat. In the show, Sang-woo stays cool when it kicks off. Sure, I assume he was shocked like everyone else, but he freezes in place and figures out the situation fast. This is a massive advantage for him. Then right after, Sang-woo came up with the genius move, hiding behind other players to block the motion detector's view.
You won't get caught if you're behind somebody else.
One underrated thing this shows us as a viewer is how Sang-woo's brain stays sharp even when under pressure. He comes up with the ideas and executes them while everyone else is freaking out. It's a clear sign of his ability to stay calm and survive. That said, his strategy does have some plot holes, not like show inconsistencies, just that it wasn't as good as an idea as it seemed. It was untested. Maybe the guy in front falls back and knocks him over, or a bullet punches through and hits him anyway. Maybe there were some motion detectors around the game, who knows. It was a solid idea, but ultimately not the go-to. But at the end of the day, red light, green light is straightforward, with a generous amount of time to cross if you step carefully without rushing. We see Sang-woo breeze past it in the show, and I'd definitely give him at least a 90% chance of surviving game 1. Super likely he'd make it, but yeah, there's always that 1 in 10 chance he slips up and gets taken out. Game 2, Dalgona. Now for this game, Sang-woo uses that S&U brain and figures out the game before he picks his shape. Very smart, very lucky, and you could argue this was for the plot, so you could set up this whole Sang-woo tries to kill his friends arc, but we'll allow it. Before we dive in, I gotta bring up something from my last video. Sang-woo figuring out the game and not telling his friends was maybe the dumbest thing he did in the entire show. Nowhere does it say only one person can survive till the end, and it's heavily implied early on that the team of Ali, Ji-hun, Sang-woo, and Il-nam would help each other and come up with ideas in the future. Take Il-nam's strategy in Tug of War, for example, or when they protected each other during Lights Out when it gets wild later. Sure, Sang-woo didn't know that killing was allowed at night, but the cons of screwing over your mates clearly outweighed the pros. In my view, without plot armor in real life, there's no way Sang-woo would try to kill his friends. I'm 100% certain he would have shared the info to keep them alive so that they could help him later. Maybe then he'd even get Ji-hun's trick to lick the candy, but you could argue maybe Ji-hun wouldn't figure this out if he didn't have the pressure of having the umbrella, so you never know. Either way, I do see Sang-woo likely winning this game. He picks the easiest shape, the triangle, and based on completion rate, it's pretty straightforward. I hate to repeat game 1, but I believe he'd have a 90% chance of surviving this one. Same reasoning, he'd most likely get through, but there's always that 10% chance he messes up. Lights Out. Not one of the main 6 games, but we do need to talk about it. I'll keep this quick. The stronger players try to kill the weaker ones, but Sang-woo's team bands together to fight back against the tough guys. This is where Sang-woo would have been screwed if he did kill his teammates earlier, but in this universe, they're probably alive thanks to him sharing info. From what I saw, he fought pretty well and probably got bailed out by the old man ending it. I'm sure it would have stopped around them anyway, since the game masters didn't want everyone dead, so I will allow it. Now, I do think Sang-woo had a solid chance of surviving, especially better than Ji-hun, who got jumped right out of bed. Sang-woo had a stronger start, stayed calm, and in my opinion, he's probably a better fighter than Ji-hun. I'll give him a solid 80% chance of survival. Still likely to make it, but there's a bit more risk he catches a glass bottle to the neck and goes down. Game 3, Tug of War. I hate to just copy what I said in my last video, so I'll speed through it. Like I said, picking the girls and the old man was really stupid. For anything non-physical, it might not matter, but for anything physical, men are just statistically the better choice, and you'd be far smarter risking it with them. In the show, Sang-woo was clearly unhappy with that decision. but it doesn't matter, that's the team he ends up with. Now, you could definitely argue maybe Sangwoo would sense this and then look to join a stronger team as the 10th member. I'll keep this in mind for my final number, but for now, let's assume the show's team is his. Like I stated in my last video, God, I keep referring to that video so much, the strategies in play were very smart. Since they were one of the weakest teams and they were facing what was implied to be the second strongest team of the 8, Ilnam's lean back technique was good. Hold your ground, tire your opponent out and strike when they slip and leave an opening. But like we saw in the show and 100% real life, I think you'd expect the other team to pull back just like they did, just because of the strength advantage. Second tactic, thought up by Sangwoo himself, step forward, throw the others off and try to get them while they're struggling to rebalance. Genius, it really was, but it's hard to say whether it definitely would have worked. I think the strategies helped, but more likely than not, they were just too outmatched for this game. Spoiler alert, since it's the same number as Jihoon's video, I give him a 25% chance of surviving this game. However, I'll give Sangwoo an extra 5% because I do actually think there's a slight chance if he was offered or spotted another spot on a stronger team, in real life, I think he 100% would have taken it. If you disagree, I recommend you dive more into Sangwoo's character. This is somebody who is heavily implied to be incredibly smart and obviously down to do anything to ensure his survival. 30% it is, moving on. Game 4. Marbles. I just want to state, picking Ali was a solid decision by Sangwoo. Ali was strong, reliable, and a better pick than Jihoon. Now, Marbles is tough to strategize because it's mostly luck-based games, so you'd think it'd just be a straight-up 50% survival rate, right? Of course not. In the show, once Sangwoo realized he was losing and facing death, he pulled one last survival move. He manipulated Ali into giving up his marbles without even knowing. He told Ali that he figured out a way to bend the rules so both of them could survive, preying on Ali's deep compassion, and then swapped his bag of stones while sneaking off with the marbles. Honestly, first time watching this, you really hate Sangwoo for this. We all loved Ali and teared up at his death. But after multiple rewatches, you've kind of just got to clap for it. It was kind of genius. If I had to do it, I'd 100% do the same. You just met this guy and it's either you or him, so I'd probably be picking him to go down too. There's always a chance someone like, say, Sae-byuk wouldn't trust you if you teamed up with her, but from the players available, it was Ali or Jihoon when it came to who Sangwoo would team up with, and I think Sangwoo would have pulled this play with either of them too. So 50% chance from the luck-based game, plus an extra 25% for the smart manipulation, giving him a solid 75% chance of getting past marbles. Game 5, Glass Bridge. Luckily, I already did the math last time, so this should be easy. I gotta mention, in real life, the games might have ended here. With over half the contestants having basically no chance of surviving, they'd most likely vote to leave. But that's of course boring, so let's move on. Here's the math. 16 players, 18 pairs of glass, and a 50-50 chance of living or dying each jump. Statistically, you're expecting 9 deaths and 7 survivors. Of course, you've got to factor in the actual people in the game. Some refusing to go, maybe pushing others off, but it also goes the other way. Some might get really lucky, or someone, like we saw, might figure out how to tell the glass apart. To keep this short, we'll stick with the maths. I just can't see people in real life pushing others off just for the heck of it, maybe refusing to go, but let's just leave it there. With 7 likely survivors and random position picks, the average survival rate for this game would be 43.75%. But we're not just calculating general odds here, we're figuring out Sangwoo's survival odds for each game. In the show, Sangwoo works out it's probably better to go later rather than first. From Jihoon's perspective, there are pros and cons to each position, but Sangwoo, with the middle numbers already taken, decides going near the end is probably the smarter play, and it was. With Sangwoo as the 14th player, and I'm happy to say he'd likely pick that number in real life scenarios, his survival odds were actually 98.46%. Don't argue with me, argue with the maths. Since there's a chance some don't go, or somebody pushes, or maybe he picks a slightly higher number, I'll lower it to about 80%. That's still super high. Sangwoo's looking unstoppable in Squid Game so far. I mean, I've literally had to nerf him to not make it too obvious that he probably should have won. But that brings us to the last game, Squid Game. We'll assume this is Sangwoo versus Jihoon, and like I stated in the last video, Sae-byuk's death was stupid and purely for the plot, so they could remove her and give the guys a reason to be angry at each other for the 1v1. Since it's a fight, the likelihood is 50% right. Wrong, Sangwoo does have the advantage in my opinion. He's clearly okay with killing or playing dirty, while Jihoon really wasn't. Jihoon wasn't happy with the killing and hesitated when taking out Sangwoo in the show, so it's only fair to assume this boosts Sangwoo's survival odds. I'm giving him a slight edge and saying if he was in the final versus Jihoon, he'd have a 60% chance of surviving game 6. Now we have all the percentages, let's work out Sangwoo's final number and chance at winning Squid Game. He'd have a 90% chance at getting past game 1, an 81% chance at getting past game 2, a 64.8% chance of getting past Lights Out, a 19.4% chance of getting past game 3, a 14.6% chance of getting past game 4, an 11.7% chance of getting past game 5, and Sangwoo's final chance of winning Squid Game is a massive 7%, a 1 in 14 shot at winning from the start. Wow. A lot may argue this is really high, but on rethinking it, I think it's quite fair. It's clear that with him being calm in stressful situations, having a really good brain to figure out the smartest choices and ways to beat each game, and of course the most underrated ability, being fine with killing or being the reason somebody dies so that you can survive, which in Squid Game is pretty much necessary to win, Sangwoo's chances of winning Squid Game place him maybe as the favourite to win. But could someone like Doksu or Saebyuk beat him? Let's find that out in a future video. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on it.